Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we're doing the Lara versus Garcia breakdown video as Erislandy Lara, the reigning WBA middleweight champion of the world, returns on the September 14th pay-per-view card that's headlined by Canelo Alvarez and Edgar Berlanga, as he will be in the co-feature in defending his title versus former two-division world champion Danny Garcia. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, if you haven't seen my breakdown videos before, I talk about the fight, I talk about what it means, how I feel about it, and then we get into each fighter individually, where in a fight like this, I'll start with the champion, Lara, and break him down, talk about what he's done coming into the fight, and then we'll do the same thing for the challenger, Danny Garcia. Then at the end of the video, I will, ask a question, and then I will give my prediction, my final prediction on this fight. So, first, what does this fight mean for boxing and in general? It's basically just two names that the way I look at it. I'm not too excited about this fight, not too thrilled about it. It's something that even if Danny Garcia was active or Lara was active, I wouldn't be too thrilled about this matchup. Just because Lara is so much naturally bigger than Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia hasn't done anything to deserve a WBA middleweight title fight. It's more of a name recognition type title opportunity. These kind of fights happen. I'm just not too overly thrilled about it. Danny Garcia, this is his fourth fight in basically 4 or 5 years. He fought twice in 2020, didn't return until 2022, and hasn't fought since 2022. So, he basically has had almost 2 years, in between fights 2 times in a row now, and he's getting a title shot. Now, this fight is long overdue. It was approved by the WBA, and it was supposed to happen last year. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. Now it is happening, but I wasn't thrilled about the matchup last year. I'm not certain if it's still taking place at 155, a catchweight, or not. I haven't heard anything about the catchweight. Originally, that's what it was supposed to be. But either way, I don't think that's really going to make a difference. Lara was a career 154-pounder. He's moved up to middleweight nicely, but I think cutting the weight shouldn't be that big of a deal for him. He doesn't fight very often, and he's always been in really good shape. Never had really weight issues. So that's what it is. I'm not too excited or thrilled about this fight, but it is what it is. So let's get into each fighter, starting with the reigning champion, Erislandy Lara, who this is going to be his second official defense as the full middleweight champion. He was the regular champ. He was supposed to fight Triple G last year. He got ordered to fight Triple G, was supposed to get the fight. Triple G decided to give up the belt instead, and go on his hiatus out of the ring. We still don't know if Triple G's retiring or not. He never officially did it, but that's another story. But the last 3 fights for Erislandy Lara date back to 2021, when he defeated Cornflake LaManna to capture the vacant WBA regular belt with a first-round knockout. He returned in, that was in May of 21. He returned in late May of 22, and took on Spike O'Sullivan, who was a past-it contender, middleweight contender, and he broke down O'Sullivan, dominated him, and stopped him in 8 rounds to retain the regular middleweight title with that win. Then he was out of the ring until this year, until February, or was it March of this year. He didn't fight in 23 at all, so it was almost 2 years. He was 21 months out of action, and he made a mandatory defense against Australian contender Michael Zarafa, and he destroyed him in only 2 rounds, brutal knockout win. So He's hungry in terms of he's coming off of a big knockout win. His last 3 fights have all ended by knockout. 41 years old now, you know, but he has a significant reach advantage. Only 1 inch in height. He's 5'9". Danny Garcia is 5'8", but he has a 6.5 inch reach advantage, which is very significant. And I think carrying that into the ring, it's gonna bode well for him. I think, you know, him being the superior boxer and also the naturally bigger fighter, he's hungry, and I think he's coming into this one knowing that he can exploit some things out of Danny Garcia. So, what does Lara need to do to win this fight? Well, he needs to be in great shape, but his goal should be to just bust Danny Garcia up. Yes, of course, headshots, but stand in there and hit the body. I mean, wear down Danny Garcia and stop him in the late rounds. Danny's never been stopped in his career, but I think the fact that he's coming in off of such, you know, inactivity the last few years, that I think he's in over his head in this one, and I think Erislandy Lara needs to take advantage of that, get him into the deep waters, and just drown him, you know, bust him up, beat him up, body, show him why he's a true middleweight, and beat, you know, and go from there. So that's what I think he needs to do to win this fight. Can Lara win this fight by knockout? I actually think he can. I think Lara's counter shots, I think, can hurt Danny. Danny does have a good chin, though. You got to give him that. But I think more potentially from accumulation punching and then just good counter punching, which Lara possesses, could hurt Danny and stop him. So I do think Lara can win this fight by knockout. Can he win a decision? Absolutely. I think he's the better boxer. I think he can win this fight by decision. What's more likely, a knockout or a decision for Lara? Tough to say, but I honestly think a knockout could be more likely in this one. I think it's about 50-50. I could see Danny going the distance in this fight and just getting dominated over 12. But Lara's been more aggressive, and I think he's coming for this one. So I think, for me personally, I think a knockout's more likely for Lara. But again, it's close to 50-50. It could go either way. Now, what does a win mean for Erislandy Lara? I mean, getting Danny Garcia's name on his resume is not going to be bad for him, but nobody's really going to make a big deal about it. It's not really going to matter much. I think people want to see him unify against Carlos Adames or another bigger name opponent. So, you know, in a true middleweight. So I don't think a win's really going to matter all that much for Lara, but, you know, it'll help him keep the title, and that should be his main goal, is to hold on to his belt. What does a loss mean for Lara? A loss hurts Lara. At 41, he cannot afford to lose a fight that he's a solid favorite in against a way naturally smaller man. I mean, Danny Garcia, for all intents and purposes, should not win this fight. And if Lara loses this fight, it's really going to hurt him in terms of just being a serious contender. He's not going to be taken serious anymore if he loses to Danny Garcia. So let's switch over to the challenger, former 2-division world champion Danny Garcia, and take a look at what he's done rolling into this fight. I mean, Danny has fought, his last 3 fights date back to 2020, where he defeated Ivan Redkach by a 12-round decision, and then went on to get dominated against Errol Spence Jr. as he challenged for the unified welterweight title. And Spence broke him down and dominated him over 12 rounds. Danny was competitive. He landed shots, but he got completely outworked and dominated in that fight and lost a clean decision. Then he took over 2 years off. And lost to a... like I said, he took over 2 years off and returned. It wasn't quite 2 years. Anyways, in 2022, July of 2022, he fought Jose Benavidez, moved up to 154 officially, and got a majority decision. I thought he outworked Benavidez. You know, it was a decent performance. Benavidez was a good, solid opponent for him to debut at 154, but he hasn't done shit since. It's been over 2 years. 2 years and 2 months by the time he gets in the ring with Lara. And you know, he definitely doesn't deserve this decision, but this fight, but he's getting it. So doesn't really matter. We're going to see how he does in this fight, if he can compete at middleweight, and if he can pull off a big upset here going into this fight. I mean, Danny believes in himself. He's going to come in prepared as he can be, but I think it is a goal for him to become a middleweight champ, but I just don't know how good he can be. He's 36 now. He's definitely past his prime, but he's got 5 years on Lara. But again, he's only given up 1 inch in height, but in terms of natural body size, Lara is a bigger guy, and Lara also has that 6.5 inch reach advantage. I mean, that's significant for a guy who's a superior boxer and a southpaw. So, you know, it definitely is a tall order for Garcia. What does he need to do to win the fight? I think he needs to get inside of Lara and bust him up. I mean, really land the left hook, try to get inside, try to make it a dog fight, so Lara can extend those punches, and, you know, see if he can beat the speed battle. And also jab. When he gets on the inside, jab, and then hit to the body, then hit him with the left hook. I think those are keys to victory right there for Danny Garcia. He's got to make it a dog, and he's got a dogfight, and he's got to be prepared for 12 hard rounds, because I don't think it's going to be easy. Can Danny win this fight by knockout? I don't think so. I don't think Danny's going to be very strong in this fight in terms of power. Lara's always had a good chin. I know he's 41, but he can take shots, and I don't think Danny's carrying up that much power. He wasn't a big-time hitter at welterweight, so I don't think at middleweight he's going to be a big hitter at all. Can he win a decision? Maybe. I could see him potentially pulling off an upset, close decision in this one. What's more likely, a decision or a knockout for Danny? If he were to pull off the upset, it would be a decision for sure. What does a win mean for Danny Garcia? Oh, it's huge for his legacy. Erislandy Lara is still considered to be a top 3 to 5 middleweight. Some people might even have him near the top because middleweight's so wide open. Even at 41, just for Danny to move up this far after all the inactivity and to pull off a victory, I mean, it would be huge. It would be a huge win for Danny Garcia. So a win would mean a lot, and it would go down as one of his best. Now, what does a loss mean for Danny? Depends on how he loses one, but I don't think it's going to hurt him all that bad, especially if he goes the distance. If he gets his ass whipped and gets knocked out, that's going to hurt his pride. Danny's a very prideful fighter. That's going to hurt his pride a lot. It might be time to hang him up. But if he goes out there and impresses and fights hard, then I think Danny might still make a run at 154. He just knows, like, hey, he's going to say, I made my attempt at middleweight and it just wasn't my day. So in terms of overall, what does a loss do? It doesn't hurt him too bad, depending on how he loses. But it's still going to hurt. You know, a loss is a loss. So final question before my prediction is it better for boxing if Lara wins this fight or if Danny Garcia wins this fight? That's close to a 50-50, but I do think it's better if Lara wins, just because he's the more natural middleweight. It leads to more potential fights later, like a showdown with Carlos Adames. So I think it's slightly better if Lara wins, but it's definitely not a bad story if Danny wins, because Danny is such a solidified name in boxing. You know, even with the hiatus he's been on, the inactivity, he's still a known name. That's why this fight got in as a co-feature, because Danny is still known and respected. So he's had a long career, and I think it wouldn't be bad for boxing if Danny pulled this off. So it's close to 50-50 in terms of that. For me, I think it's better for boxing if Lara wins. But again, that's almost a flip of the coin. So now, what is my final prediction on this fight between Erislandy Lara and Danny Garcia? And I just think Lara being more aggressive, being the naturally bigger fighter, and that 6.5 inch reach advantage is significant, and he's the better boxer in my opinion. I think Lara's going to take a note out of Errol Spence's book from when he beat Danny. I think he's going to break him down, and I think he stops Danny in the late rounds, to be honest. I think he's going to get him out of there between rounds like 8 and 10, maybe 11. I could see Danny going the distance, but I just think Lara's going to win a convincing decision if that happens. But I'm predicting Lara by a 9th, 10th round stoppage to retain the WBA middleweight title. And that's it. So Lara versus Garcia. This has been the breakdown video. I hope you enjoyed it. It takes place Saturday, September 14th as the co-feature on pay-per-view to Canelo Alvarez versus Edgar Berlanga. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.